Welcome in. Glad you are here again today. Always glad to have anybody who comes all the time. Some new people coming because we've had a few of them and increased subscriptions. So anybody who's willing and open, because us here, we joke around, serious at times, because there is a serious side of serious. But we have to find joy, but sometimes we got to take care of business. And the reality is that which this channel is actually very, very, to me, it's different. That, and why I have to say that is many stations are conspiracies or one thing. One things are just conspiracies or things that were said even decades ago were truth that were hidden, seem to be hidden from us, right? I'm always leaving y'all, and I shouldn't have to. Let me just scoot over here a little bit to get something for me to have some support for me. Yes, need that support from the back. But anyways, and you say, well, what do you mean by that? I have gotten to conspiracies and definitely have opened up about many areas of it and definitely shared some science, shared some ancient knowledge that was before science, that science now is catching up to, of things that were millenniums, right? Of truths, what's important to me in this state of time and being, what you need to have so you don't get taken for a ride or deceived, or if the very elect weren't, right? There's a scripture for you who may come from that aspect, but just having your discernment well placed to not buy everything but discern everything. And that means from yourself, from me, being, and for many others outside of us, because in the conspiracy aspect of it, many times when you have movements of people waking up, they will be, what's the word I'm looking for? The very thing of espionage or infiltration into a conscious community is, to me, that would come because keeping eyes on them who they don't want the multitude to wake up. And the waking of multitudes, nobody's in the same degree at the same time. Some are in various degrees. Some are just waking up from relieving the religious circle, right? But the days happen to be quicker for a lot of them as a certain period or time draws nigh, right? Where many might be in the field for multiple decades, acquiring knowledge, been awake, and then somebody who just kind of wakes up recently, really expediently kind of breaks the speed of their growth and start catching on to things that many maybe took some time to, through that process at that time was built for that, because it builds good foundation, but many are being expediently transitioned into high knowledge quickly and awareness. But keys, have your discernment on. Activation of revelation and processing of gnosis. Have that gnosis, that stable compartment of yourself to be able to receive. Because some people can paint a picture, but you'll see things are on it that are still connected to the world, and that will be fed to you. And if you're not be able to discern, the real thing is, do you have gnosis? Remember the whole commercial back in the day? Do you have milk? Well, do you have gnosis? Remember, you got milk, got gnosis. The commercial was got milk, got gnosis. Is that activated? And I said I would do a thing with the paradox of what are the similarities of revelation knowledge and gnosis, that they're very, very similar, but there are some tendencies to be a little different, and we will get into that. We will get into that. But going back to what is here, I shared some of that, but I really, in the foundation, if you go watch my beginning videos, you'll find out this was a channel to learn spiritual technology, being able to take that technology like tools and adjust your inner self to whatever, because you start being a technician of yourself. There's no hierarchy to lead you. We lead you to you, and you become your own hierarchy. And then when that starts getting activated, access, and this is another access point we're going to hit on today. As you see, there's the name of this is Seek and You Shall Find, which is a scripture in the Bible, but it's also a Gnostic scripture, and the Gnostic scripture is what we'll be reading today. And we're going to have something else injected into what recognition really is, and we got some things that that are connected to it, other that are kind of out of it, but directly connected to it. You can take the whole, if you get a pizza and you only have cheese, some people might like pepperoni, anchovies, pineapple, mushrooms. These are the different ingredients that are connected to this, and that's the kind of the example I came up with Paisano today, but I must have pizza on my mind, right? And I ain't talking about it just hit me about, with the conspiracy stuff. I'm talking about eating pizza. Man, people take that and run with it and say, oh, it's part of it, No. I'm talking about really having some pizza, but using it to let you see that this is a unity oneness. It's almost like in school today, in the universities, you learn something and you're really kept broadened in that scope, and you don't realize the other side of the whole. This is like a slice, your conformity to being in this one teaching, and across from you or next to you there's another slice of pizza that would enhance the wholeness, but you're not told wholeness in the universities. We're going to put this all together as a whole in what I'm doing today, in an experience of, I think is hugely needed today, in advancement of the soul, when all we see outside of us is, I'm going to tell y'all, you got to be ready. Because they're looking to overwhelm you so they can deceive you, distractions. And this is the inner working, so you don't have that. So, let me share something real quick. Not that one. Let me share this. This is about my channel. I hope you guys see it. D-Boy. D, small, all lowercase D-Boy, WCU, Cash App. Daniel Abril with the D and the A of my first and last name. Daniel with the D, Abril with these are all upper cases. Would help with me with this work. It would be definitely appreciated if you could join in and help us get better, renew. It's a lot of work for the price, and also for the blessings that come if you're receiving something from here, to be able to do this, because it will enhance you as you enhance it. It's called abundance preparation and abundance mindset, right? If we're in lack, if we're in lack, we will always have a lackey trying to pull on our shirt that you're in lack. Doubt, unbelief, not realizing there's an abundance connected to you that you don't have to lack, because they're pushing the agenda of lacking, separating and taking the middle class out through the vid to create rich and poor outside of us. And we need to be ready to understand the precepts from the higher state of our abilities, because we need to glitch the reality. But here we go. This is definitely, we're going to read this from the Gnostic gospel first, and then we're going to get into the other stuff with it, okay? So let me share. Don't be square, but also learn to circle the square, if you know what I mean. Be fair. All right. So right away, we're going to go and read the scripture. It's only a couple scriptures. It's only one I'm really going to read out of this to build this, but I'm going to kind of break this down in how this works into a higher state of connection. See, a lot of what I'm learning in this is not just the fact that we're seeing this. is the fact that this is just not metaphysical, some good mysticism. This is really technology of what the Gnostics were teaching, how to ascend, how to take yourself into higher frequencies, and how to connect to these aspects of these archetypes, feminine, masculine. The story is not necessarily a story of his story, but it's a combination of a story of your story, but the full other pieces, his story and her story, feminine and masculine becoming one, right? And we're only reading verse 2. And in this one they call Yeshua, which is a name that many say Jesus, and in the other language, Yeshua, right? There's even people in this community that will say if you're using Jesus, you're wrong, and Yeshua. Come on, this is archetypes, and we know what they are. So that's where it needs to be taken to the next level. Some people may be doing that and feel it's historical. I personally don't take it as historical. I take this as a story that has a connection of real, because here's what it is. The myth is the connection. That's why you need to write your scriptures and your myths. Because these myths are archetypes that come out of you, within you, and when you realize that, it will broaden who your consciousness, who you are, and not limited to an outward identity of something outside of ourselves. So I can make this bigger and not even use these glasses. So it says, in verse 2, that's all we're really going to go into depth into. Seek and do not stop seeking until you find. And this is key, is I see a lot of us, and we're guilty of it, is that we keep on trying to come into a perfection as we grow. I'm not taking away growth, but here it's keep seeking until you find. See, while you're seeking, maybe you really, and this is the truth, you don't know what you're looking for. You don't know what's in the treasure. You don't know what you're looking for to find. But when you find it, you will know it. Think about that. When you find it, you'll know it. Because there's a change and a transformation, and you quit being a seeker, listen, and you start being a seer, not a seeker. Seeking until you find. Watch what's happened. When you find, you will be troubled, because you're going to see the reality how it really is. But when you are troubled, there's another great aspect that's going to come to you through this troubling times, right? Because it's not what you thought it was through the programming, but when you found it, it was troubling because it wasn't what you thought it was. It was not. What you thought this reality was, it's not. In every aspect of the simulation in this reality. So when you were troubled, right, you will marvel. Notice there's an aspect of change. When you found that you were troubled by it, then there was an expansion because something came in the trouble. You will marvel, and then a next level is it will give you kind of a rulership. You will have, and let's go back to the beginning. When you quit seeking, you find. When you find, you're troubled. When you're troubled, there's an aspect coming that you will be marvel at what you really have found and sought, even though at first it was troubling. And then has this next agenda kicks in, because this is, and you will rule over all. Self, you will realize, and this scripture, and I keep quoting it in all my videos, because when I read this a few weeks ago, when you really realized in the upper states of consciousness, we've been taught to seek gods. Gods are not the upper echelon of all this. You are from where you came from when you marvel and rule over all. Marvel. Marvel's a connection of, it's also a movie frame, right, for superheroes. Marvel. People marvel. The word marvelous comes from. But the process of marvel to rule over is a key. There's different keys in here. And I'm talking a spiritual key of unlocking yourself and your consciousness to get from this. Get out of seeking. Quit seeking. A lot of the seeking was built in the New Age. There was a lot of truth in it, but it never got you into something that was real totally. I've always looked at New Age with that because I also knew that a lot of this religion, Christianity, Muslim, especially if we want to go there, is more New Age than a lot of practices that they were teaching, but there was always something within that that just did not, my cognitive reasoning, my discernment said, it's lackluster, D. It's lackluster. Similar to when I see with certain people, when I realize there's something about them that's not genuine, and I'm talking about even some of our teachers that have infiltrated, that are connected to certain things that could be even sent CIA-wise, I'm going to be honest. Do I think that CIA? No, they're not. I don't have a big enough channel. If my channel went and went huge, that's when I'd have to worry who's trying to infiltrate me or get next to me. No, not now. But other people that when you see there's millions of dollars rolling in, or they have backgrounds that don't make sense, or they let a guy get in a debate with them that's just an esoteric Christian, and he rubs their nose into it. That's when I go, something about that. And what I mean, the discernment needs to be, you need to have inserted. But this aspect is when you will stop seeking when you find it. But what you found it troubled you because you didn't really know what you were looking for because it was a mystery. But we'll put that in line, right? You were troubled. But as you really started realizing the trouble, the next level of the understanding was you will marvel at who you are, because you start realize that, oh, I was connected to this before even the script, the simulation, this reality, or this movie in progress. You will marvel, but then there's an aspect of ruling, being in a power play of yourself, having found that you were the being before the being, and you no longer seek. And as you no longer seek, you start being the being before being. This is actually called Sophia consciousness. And you go, really? It's Sophia consciousness. How it's Sophia consciousness is the fact that you no longer are trying to be something. You just are. You just are. And this is key because there's an introspective name of this key to this whole second chapter of unlocking a door, unlocking a veil, going through the veil that's rent. Also unlocking the door, the pathway into yourself as you no longer trying to be something that you already are, right? We keep going through this process as the illusions unravel us, as the illusions unravel, we start seeing things the way they are. And it's troubling because the ego was so raveled up, so many false teachers, so many false reality. The Hinduism called it Maya, right? Called it Maya. It's illusion. It's temporary. All illusions are temporary. It's like the magician, one of the magician's tricks is that the hand is quicker than the eye, but when the eye is awakened, the hand's not quicker, and you see the trouble. But then you realize, you marvel that it's like the movie Wizard of Oz. When she went behind the veil, she seen a nerdy guy, a technocrat, almost looking guy from the movie, which was I think in the 30s. To now you go, oh, that's a technician guy that works on computers, a nerdy looking guy, and you go, you're the one behind the screen, you're the one causing all this mess, you're the wizard? Yeah. I'm troubled what I see, but I'm marveled that you really have rule, but I need rule because you ain't what I thought you are, and you really ain't that tough. Kind of, right? Nerd. Technology. The hand's quicker than the eye. But there's a different something here that really plays into this. Let me stop sharing. We will get into it immediately, but let's stop sharing. Let's go back into this page. I may want to add something else here too that I can put. You won't see right away. I'm going to add another aspect to this. I hope it fits in. But this is really, I was hoping it would pop up. Okay, real quick, I'll be right with you. I hope this gets it. Yeah, Sophia. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll go back here. I'm going to share it. Hopefully, let me look at this. I just want to see that this is what I just added. I thought I added it early, but I remember I went out of it. Yes, it's perfect. Perfect. So, this is the book of Philip we just read, right? Or Thomas, excuse me, seeking something. And he said, go ahead and keep seeking. But when you find it, there's a key thing of the find it. It's a recognition activation. You're recognizing that which you sought for, which you really had no idea. There's a lot of illusions that you were taught, felt, maybe wondered, indoctrinations that you thought you were looking for. Some in modern traditional Christianity at the first esoteric church near you would think it's just going to heaven, right? But those who wake up know this is a greater process. But what was coming forth from this was something special, something that was a key, something that would give you levels, because remember it said find, seek, troubled, marvel, and then rule, meaning it would take you to these general places. First you would be troubled because it wasn't anything you thought out of your illusions that you had, right? You're transformed into another, through this key, through another portal, if I may use that word, of higher consciousness, of the word I just said, a recognition key, and the recognition realize you're troubled, but then you marvel at what you found, that it wasn't what you thought it was. As something becomes stable in your foundation, that you realize you were more than you thought you were. You just weren't. That came along in the flesh, and you're trying to get back to something that you call God, and these words that you really don't know what they mean, especially through lower exoteric knowledge, going to a place that has streets of gold just like it's physical. When you start waking up, this is spiritual, not physical. This is not physical. I mean, streets of gold, what are we going to do? Sing with the angels? And it becomes so physical, carnal, physical, because there's no, in the mindset of the indoctrination, it was going somewhere. This was not really ever talking about that. So the marveling comes into, whoa, I am more, and I'm expansive into another state and place. So the key was recognition. You went from marvel after being troubled to what? To ruling, meaning a ruler, right? And measurements, right? Even a ruler, without using it in a political form or a king form, is something that you measure. Height, depth, length. What was it? Height, deep, depth, length, and breadth. Right? Breath with it. Breadth. So let's go. I got a little bit going along with this word of the day. And this word of the day goes with the second part of this. This word of the day, I can make it a little bit bigger. If I make it a little bit bigger, I don't want to get on my little thing on the side, though. Let me make it a little bit bigger, because there's some reading we must do here, okay? Because we're going to unveil some things here. This is from Online, etymology. The etymology is definitely, notice the words recognize. I put recognition. We're going to cover, they both are the same word. One's a noun in different parts of English, and we already talked about English language, what it can be. It can be very evasive and divisive for them in power. Because we just went over how the word smart has nothing to do with being intelligent. It was actually to produce pain on my last video. To inflict pain was the word smart, what it means. So sense of acknowledgement of service done. Formal avowal of knowledge and approval has between governments and sovereigns from the 1590s, right? So this is recognition, we go. Recognition, I'm sorry, I missed it. It's up here. Recognition, knowledge of an event or incident. Understanding from Old French recognition. Directly Latin recognition. Nominative recognitio. A reviewing and an investigation, examination. A noun of action from past particle stem. To acknowledge, to know again. This is the key. One of the keys here. There's going to be a lot of keys that are going to give you some, oh wow. If you're there, to know again, because this is why it's the marvel. First, it's trouble that this world is what it is, and it's nothing you thought it was in the lower state of before you were awakened in your consciousness. Here's the key You're starting to know you knew this before this. You were known before you were that you known. There's an actually connecting you to a state of knowing this again, meaning you've already known it again. This is not your first rodeo. You were awake before this, right? Examine, recognize, which we just were reading about the sense of approval, independence. Watch this. The meaning, a knowing again, consciousness that was given objectal, identical to an object previously recognized. Recognition is a key in your spiritual toolbox that you're given now, because you're no longer trying to be something that you already are. You're no longer seeking, you found it. And you are who you found. The true you, not this identity outside of you, the internal aspect. And it mentioned internal 2 places when we read this, right? If you remember earlier, it said internal states. Independence even talks about a country, and sovereignty, which is a huge word. You want to be sovereign from these religious orders, or even this political system won't let you really know of your sovereignty, because they got to keep you connected. The meaning to know again, consciousness, was given as identical, literally, especially a stage of a recognition scene in which a principal character suddenly learns or realizes the true identity of another, and that's waking up. You realize you're not the identity of the physical realm in this life, and you're waking up and go, I'm another mofo. Oh, that's the marvel in this. And when the marvel sets in, then this is when the ruler, or the measurement of rule and power, can be given to you. This is what is called Sophia consciousness. And remember when we went over this Gnostic book, the being before the being. These beings before the being are not a lot of these gods we were taught to worship and idolize. These are from the lower state of fallen down, not from the monad or even the pleroma or the eons. It's a lower state. That's why we got the demiurge, a lower state. They're not necessarily here to build you. They're here usually, most of them, I'm not going to say all of them because they're all archetypes, most of them I'll say are here to take your energy. They're self-sufficient. They're not self-sufficient, the battery that you are. That's why you have to wake who you are from a higher state. Science, recognizance, I don't know. I can't read that perfectly at this point. Let's get back over there. No, we don't need any more because we're sticking on this word. I'll look up that word some other day. So let's go back out. This is why you see recognition added to this. God, I'm not at 30 minutes. Good. The recognition aspect is a tool. Notice this cognition. Also, cognition, or the word nition, is even connected to your ignition of a vehicle that sparks, that divine spark in you. Like when you turn on a car, sparks, hit the spark plugs, fire up the engine throughout the whole maintenance of how this operation of the car works, or any vehicle governed by engine, that's ran by engine. Guess what it does? Fire and recognition is an ignition to ignite you, because it's keys. This is a key that's been birthed through. You're no longer seeking. You found what you're looking for. You found it. And you found it within you, not in a government, not in a religion, and not some outside teaching of yourself. That's why it was really emphasized that the kingdom is where? Within you. And it's just not Christianity, Gnostic, or any type of Christianity. This is in Buddhism. This is in Hinduism. This is in all these ancient states. When you get to the esoteric part of it, it's that this is within you. Anything outside of you will hold a resonance of illusionary. I got one more thing to share. Let's go back our share. I mentioned that it's connected to Sophia consciousness, right? Feminine aspect. Sophia means in itself wisdom. A feminine aspect of Sophia is wisdom. That's what it is. I put the being before the being. Let's even do that. Let me touch this up. The being before the being. Sophia is understood in theological. Yeah. Gnostic traditions is the divine wisdom, representing a primordial conscious intellect of the soul of the world that existed for the enabled creation. You are the being before the being because you came from a space and place of light, the monad, where everything is connected to there. All unity conscious. This is where duality does not exist. Everything comes from here that's created. The gods underneath, all the gods underneath that are, from Yahweh to this. Notice that Jesus always called him Father. How many times do you hear him call God? Yes. Did he call himself a God? No. He told the religious sect of Jews in that scripture, in your own book, Old Testament, you even say that you're gods. But they said that against him. He never said he was. There's the state of Sophia and Eon, and everything that comes from light, which you are embodied with, this is the recognition that you were not what you are now, that you were something before that. And that was even in etymology, it was there. And Kolju was a conscious act in etymology, right? Notice this when we look at this. Let me make it bigger. Conscious intellect of the soul before the enabled creation. Let's even do a little bit different. Is it there? Is it there? I don't see it. Oh, yeah, right here, Danny, you're blind. I want to even go into the AI aspect of it. Before the creation of the material world, often described as the being before the being. The recognition, I'm not seeking anything to find anymore, and what I found was greater than what I was looking for. When I rolled back, all the illusions rolled back. What I thought I was seeking was an outside, some kind of power of some kind of thing outside of me, God. What I found out, it was me. I am from the light, the being before the being. That bridges the unmanifested Godhead from a higher state before these gods came away wanting to steal your energy because their battery's low, or they don't have, they're jealous gods, or they're just a weather god, right? Or just a war god. Not full stature like you. You're the gods they're jealous of because the capability, and God's a lower aspect of it. It is not an eon, and right here it tells you that represents the feminine aspect of the divine that bridges the nothing in this place. Nothing's been manifest in the higher states of the universe. Sophia is the primordial consciousness. The uncreated being is more mystical views throughout their. It is, but isn't. Is uncreated, meaning not made like the other creatures, but being revealed through emanations of light, bornless divine being. Remember, if God was birthed another God, then that's not the main character because you were birthed out of something. This place that it talks about is nothing birthed it. It was. It didn't come from nothing because nothing came to birth it. It doesn't. The Father doesn't have a father in this highest state. It's a unity consciousness where all is inhabited in power and unity consciousness even before there was a duality, which we see more here of the duality. This is knowing the state before the state, right? And this kind of goes into the pleroma, the mother of all, the Sophia code, which is connected. This is the Sophia consciousness where you're no longer seeking to find because you saw it and know, where you can be the being before the being. Being before the being is seeking and finding. When you find what you thought, you'll be horrified, right? It said they were, and then became marveled and then became ruling because you realize who you are, and anything that's state of where you actually are in the state of consciousness of where you came from, what you're being, you're no longer fighting it, you're accepting it, and you're just walking in it. We can go on the falling of the material and all that. And I mentioned the spark of the ignition and the divine spark in you. So the recognition that I keep wanting to bring out, the recognition is like a key. The recognition is a key. The recognition opened up part of the doors. When you started recognizing, you realized, oh, in this state of consciousness of recognition, I'm not looking at this is a treasure. And what it is, I'm that which was before, out of the higher states of all, before there was gods, right? These are spiritual. You can call them, this is when time and Johnny come latelys. That's how great it is when you start realizing that without taking on ego, right? You're just being what you're being, and now you're just operating off that. You're just being. Because you're not seeking. You're not seeking. You are. I hope this was good to you. I hope that we can add more in the link. I'll remember to put in my code, but it is small lowercase D-boy, WCU, all lowercase, Cash App, and then capital D, and then ANIEL, capital ABRIL. Please help if you would. We're bringing some good stuff, and I'm going to stop there. We're at the 37-minute mark. I just wanted to cook it, but the recognition to the I finding, and I'm not seeking, because what happens when your recognition makes you part of the seeing and observer. Have a great day, and we'll get back to you soon. Love you and appreciate you all. All right.